Hi, my name is Brent Moore, and I'm the executive chef here at Tiburon at the Ritz Golf Club in Naples, Florida. Today we're going to make one of my favorite dishes. It's Yukon potato gnocchi. Gnocchi is basically a potato dumpling. So first thing we did is we took 3 Yukon potatoes and we baked them about 375 for about an hour until you can stick a fork in it and it comes right out. One of the most important parts about making the gnocchi is you want to rice it when it's hot because it becomes very glutinous if you don't. So we're going to take the hot potatoes and we're just going to spoon them into the ricer. And a lot of this you can just kind of squeeze into it. Using a spoon helps a little bit. Okay. The reason I like using the Yukon potatoes is because they have a little less water content than an Idaho potato, and they're a little creamier. Therefore, you do not have to add as much flour. If you add too much flour to this, they get a little heavy and they're not nice and light and soft. So when I'm doing this, I always bake the potatoes. You will see recipes where they are boiled. When you boil them, you're adding water to them. We want to take water out because we don't want to have to add as much flour. We don't want to have to add too much flour. So what we've done now is we've cooled the potatoes. We want to cool the potatoes for about 5-10 minutes, just so they're room temperature, gives you a better feel of the dough. So when you're making this dough, we're going to make it kind of like the way the Italian grandma recipe. Every potato is a different size. Every egg is a different size. So we're just going to do this by feel, and I can show you what that feel is going to be and what the texture is going to be. I just added 1 egg yolk, so I have 3 Yukon potatoes, 1 egg yolk. I'm going to add a little bit of kosher salt. And then I have all-purpose flour here. I'm going to take the all-purpose flour and add it as needed. Okay, what you're looking for here is as with most doughs, you want it to be moist, but you don't want it sticking to your hands, okay? So that's the consistency we're looking for. If the potatoes are warm, it's hard to really feel the consistency of it. Okay, once we have our dough incorporated, again, this is the consistency we're looking for. It's not sticking to my hand, but it's moist. If it was dry, it would be falling apart. You could add a little bit of water. If it's wet, you can add a little bit of flour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to roll this out a little bit, and then I'm going to cut it in a couple pieces. And then I'm going to roll it out. You can roll it out whatever size you want, but I like to roll them out the size about of a cigar as far as the diameter. If the dough breaks as you're rolling it out, all you have to do is like Play-Doh. Put it back together and keep rolling. Okay, so I've got it. Obviously, this does not have to be perfect. This is a rustic dish. I'm going to put them all 3 together, and I'm going to cut them. Okay? After I cut them, I'm going to use a gnocchi paddle. Now, you could also use, if you have one of these at home, you can use this as well. So you can use the back of a fork or a gnocchi paddle. Gnocchi paddle makes it a little bit easier. So what I'm doing is I'm using this side of my thumb, and I'm creating an indentation in the back, and I'm creating grooves on the other side. What I'm doing here is I'm using the corner of my thumb, and I'm rolling it, and I'm creating an indentation on one side and grooves on the other. So now that I have my gnocchi made, I'm going to start on my brown butter. Brown butter is also called butternut. It's a very simple sauce. It's one of my favorite. It's simple, but very dynamic. So what we're going to do is take whole butter. I'm going to melt the butter. There's going to be a couple different stages to the brown butter. Okay? First it's going to melt, then the milk solids are going to float to the top. Those milk solids are then going to float to the bottom, and they're going to start to brown. That's what's going to give us that butternut. Butternut means brown butter. No, noisette actually means hazelnut, so it gives you that nutty flavor. I've got a little bit of fresh sage and parsley, almost frying it in the butter. and we're just going to wait a couple seconds for that butter to start to brown. You can start to see the milk solids floating to the bottom, and you can start seeing the brown bits caramelizing on the bottom of the pan. Okay, so you can see the butter is browning. I'm going to stop the browning process by adding a little bit of lemon juice. So what you want to do is take it off the heat, add your lemon juice, cut the heat off, okay? I'm going to add, this is extremely hot, so I'm going to add some roasted butternut squash, wild mushrooms. These are maitake mushrooms that we have roasted. Give those a toss in the brown butter. Let them heat up briefly. If you want to, you can turn it back on for a second, but this should be sufficient. In the meantime, what I'm going to do is take my bench scraper and take my gnocchi, and this bench scraper comes in handy, and I'm just going to put them right in the water. You want your water boiling rapidly, okay? And what you're going to do, what's going to happen is when the gnocchi is ready, it's going to float when it's fully cooked. Okay, so it usually takes about 30 seconds. So I have my brown butter. As you can see, this is still sizzling. It's nice and hot. There's really no reason for me to turn it on. I could turn it on a little bit just to warm it up. If you take a look at the gnocchi over here, they're starting to come to the top. They'll drop right to the bottom at first and then float to the top. As they float to the top, what we're going to do, the reason we started our sauce before the gnocchi's done is we're going to add the gnocchi directly into the sauce. So as the gnocchi are floating, I'm just going to take them with a spider. And because of these grooves and indentations, all that sauce is going to surround the gnocchi. Okay, so there we go. We're going to take this, stir it around a bit, fresh cracked pepper, salt, the gnocchi, brown butter, wild mushrooms, butternut squash, and sage. It's a classic combination. Works really well together. There's obviously many different things you could do with gnocchi, but this just so happens to be one of my favorites. Now what I'm going to do is, since we use sage, I fried up a little bit of sage, and gives you a little bit of a presentation, but also gives you a nice little crunch. And so we're done. This could easily be a side dish or a main dish. Potato gnocchi, with a little bit of practice, can be pretty easy. There's all kinds of different things you can do with it, and I appreciate it. Thank you.